Hey, good morning, everyone. This is the Underground QA podcast. Uh, my name is Myron. I'm the director of quality at Ringo, and my pronouns are he/him.
Hi, I'm Chelsea Curran Adams. I'm a QA manager at Riot Games, and my pronouns are she, her.
Hi, I'm ZombaeKillz. I am a Twitch streamer and blacktivist, and my pronouns are she, her.
Hey, folks. My name is Sebren Green. I'm the senior director of QA at Riot Games. My pronouns are he, him.
And my name is Chris Rando. I'm a QA lead over at Epic Games, and my pronouns are he, him.
Thanks everyone for being here today. We have some special guests who joined us for this special conversation. Um, as you know, there's a really intense special moment happening in the United States and the world. I'm here in Canada, and you've probably seen music videos, not music videos, but actually, yeah, music videos and video of people who are supporting Black Lives Matter around the world. We took some time to get our thoughts together, and we put together a special panel to have a discussion today. Thing is, and this is not our normal format. Today we're gonna have like Zombie Kill said, a very raw conversation about Black Lives Matter and race in general in the United States. And we're all here today to talk about it because we are a community in crisis uh, because there are Black people here. And it's really important to note that this isn't a conversation where someone's an expert or we're experts. This is a conversation that uh, hopefully you'll mirror in your spaces, in your realms of influence, with the power that you have. Everyone can make a difference. There's this old saying, be the change that you seek. And so today we're going to try to go through that. To start off, I wanted to tell you a little bit of story, give you an anecdote about this time that we're in. George Floyd was killed recently, and that has spread the awareness of how Black people are treated differently than others in the states and essentially in the world. And that reminded me about this old movie from the '80s. There's this movie called They Live, and the premise of this movie is that non-humans have infiltrated Earth and created some kind of technology to blind or colorblind almost people to the atrocities that were happening. They had actually taken over the planet and enslaved the entire human race. And at one point in the movie, and it's really interesting, and this is the reason I thought about this movie, there was a black gentleman that handed a white gentleman who's the main, because the black man in the '80s could not be the lead of this major movie. He handed the white guy these glasses, and these sunglasses, allowed him to see what was actually happening. So imagine Times Square, where there's all these different ads for like watches and cars and vehicles, but when you put these sunglasses on, it says things like obey, consent, no original thoughts, procreate, reproduce, stay silent, sleep. Um, and I'm going to add a paraphrase: be complicit. And so like just that imagery. So if you want to check out the video of that movie, watch that movie, watch just even the trailer on YouTube, and it's a really great, I think, corollary of this moment. And I had the and so this conversation is going to be difficult for people today. And I want to say that even as a black dude from the United States, I had a friend who happened to be aware at the time, around 5 years ago, hand me the sunglasses. And it was painful, and it's taken a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of tears, actual therapy. Like I sought out a black male therapist in the Midwest, which was very difficult to work on this issue. And like, it was like, so why are we here? Why are you here and why now? That question. And I was like, I'm black and I need to figure out how that works. And so 5 years later, in my journey, I've gotten to the point where I've summarized it into four things that I've realized. One, I'm not white. Two, I will never be white. Three, I'm black. And four, it's okay for other people to be black too. And so that leads to the first point of discussion, I think, that we're gonna have today, and it's this theme that you've heard, but I just wanted to get the thoughts from this panel. Um, you've heard Black Lives Matter, and what I'd like to ask our panel, and I'll talk on this too as well, but I want to give some time over to our distinguished guests and panelists. What does Black Lives Matter mean to you?
Do we know who we want to go first? Because I'm chomping at the bit on this one.
Ooh,
This
jump
one,
in.
Go for it.
This one woke me up in the middle of the night. Because when we met and we talked about doing this podcast, we talked about asking this question, and it occurred to me a couple days ago that Black Lives Matter is the most succinct description of the struggle of Black people in America for the last 401 years. Like, if Black Lives mattered, there would never have been a slave trade. If Black Lives mattered, the slave trade couldn't have thrived. If Black Lives mattered, Reconstruction would have worked. If Black Lives mattered, there would have never been Jim Crow. If Black Lives mattered, we wouldn't have needed the Civil Rights Act, but when it was enacted, it would have actually meant something. I could go on and on and on. But the reality is, this has been the goal of every freedom fighter, every abolitionist, every person trying to make the world a better place in this country for Black people forever, is trying to convince us all that Black Lives Matter.
Right. Black Lives Matter.
So when I put some thought into this, it was that more of like the more blatant, just like Black lives have not been valued in the same way that white lives have been. And it's very obvious in so many facets, through just law enforcement, through government laws, just systemic racism, through pop culture references. And for so long, like I only just went back like for the last like maybe 60 years or so. I didn't even go as far back as slavery, because it just immediately, this is just showing my own whiteness, being like, oh, we already know about that. So it's just like, even just thinking through it now, like there's just so much that is proven throughout history that like, no, Black lives haven't mattered, and we need to stand up and say like, they do matter, they absolutely matter, and we need to do something about it. There has to be that justice.
Yeah, I like how you said, how you talked about that it's not only, and I'm adding words, but like it's not only prison reform. It is that is a component of it, but it's just like Black Lives Matter, like all Black lives, not perfect lives, not like Obama, like level lives, like every life. People who make mistakes, people who are mean people who are assholes, people who have intellectual disabilities, people who can't say, literally physically can't say please, people who are blind and deaf or deaf. These are all Black lives that matter. They should matter as humans, within the species of humanity.
Yeah, I think that there's like a piece of this that has been a very difficult realization for me in the past few weeks as this transition of I'm not a racist to I'm an anti-racist has occurred and become very vocal in my life. Now, I'm in a privileged place where I I have seen that transition and had to um, think about how I want to implement becoming a better anti-racist in my life. And so Black Lives Matter for me is the realization that I've spent a lot of my time requiring the energy of other people to teach me rather than taking the steps myself to learn, to do, to be the better person. And so I think learning to have the capacity to get rid of my ego and to not just ask, but go over halfway. And I think it's, Myron, you mentioned being a good human, and I've wanted my entire life to be a good human. And I'm realizing that sometimes being a good human isn't being a nice human, it's being an active human. And niceness doesn't need to be a part of it because niceness actually isn't niceness. Niceness is ego
Yeah.
most of the time. And I'm mad at myself for that. Black Lives Matter uh, is an amazing phrase because there is action behind it. Humans matter. And I think that that's been a big, super difficult realization for me. I do want to say, like, you're going to see me get emotional. Y'all saw me cry on the last stream. Crying for me is an emote of many different emotions. So I'm trying to not cry for the wrong reasons, like on the internet, you know. But you may see that. I just
Yeah.
want to throw that out here. Like Sebren has the benefit of seeing me cry in a lot of different situations in my life since I work directly with him. But I want to tell y'all, like, if you see me cry today, it's not me crying for myself out of pity. It's me crying at myself for being angry or at my people, you all, because I'm angry or I'm upset or I know I could do better. So I wanted to go ahead and say that too.
Right. Thanks.
I think for me, Black Lives Matter kind of falls a bit short. It's like we're using it right now as a way to try to surmise our existence of pain, and it's easily digestible because even saying Black Lives Matter is us trying to make it easily digestible for you, for you guys. It's us trying to make it easily digestible for white people, and that's kind of problematic even in and of itself that we even have to do this. Uh, so many people are upset that we're saying Black Lives Matter, and I'm like, bruh, like, how do you not realize that the fact that we even have to say Black Lives Matter is kind of a fucking joke, and it's kind of terrible.
Yeah.
It's terrible that we're having to do this. It's terrible that we're having to do this emotional labor that we still haven't been paid for from our entire existence of mammying. We have mammied white America to death. We have babied white America as they murdered us, as they rape us, as they tried to culturally erase us. And we're doing it even now by saying Black Lives Matter. We're still babying you. And we're still saying, like, we matter. And we shouldn't even be saying that at this point. Like, we shouldn't be saying that. It shouldn't even be us hashtagging Black Lives Matter. I know my life fucking matters. I know I matter. I know my kids' lives matter. That hashtag is for you guys. That phrase is for you all. It's for white people, and I just think it doesn't really mean what it's supposed to mean for you guys to me. Like, it doesn't mean my life matters to say Black Lives Matter. I'm not saying it for me. So when we say that, I'm not saying it for me. So Black Lives Matter doesn't mean what you think it means for me, because I know my existence is powerful and important. I know that every Black person's existence is powerful and important. I share their grief. I share their pain. Like, we share each other's experiences and our stories. So we know we matter. Black Lives Matter to me means, do you guys know? Do you know what we do for you? Do you know how much we have enabled your existence and created a culturally rich experience for you? Because everything you do in America is based off of our Blackness.
Right.
Y'all want to be us so bad. And it's cool. I'm glad y'all want to be us because we're dope as hell. But like, Black Lives Matter, and the reason that it should matter is because your entire existence is framed around ours. And it's this dance of pain that people just, they needed something digestible right now, I guess. So that's how I feel about Black Lives Matter right now. That's how I feel about it. It's a little bit more nuanced for me.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think, for me, Black Lives Matter means it's okay for me to do anything to be safe.
Yeah.
Anything, and I don't care who says or thinks that I should turn things down or temper them or tamper them or whatever. I'm going to tell stories today, so I have another anecdote. I had the privilege of crying and laughing and sharing an emotional moment with a group of colleagues on the shared campus of Spelman and Morehouse. And I was telling them about this anecdote. It's like, Black Lives Matter everywhere. We exist as a proportion of humanity. Um, and when I say humanity, I mean humans, and there are way more humans. We have the numbers than white people, and I'm throwing up the air quotes for the first time. Foreshadowing. We have the numbers, but when you look at companies like Google, who proclaim to be the just the truth, we have all the information, unabashed. It's technology. Technology is blah blah blah. You look at their staff, it's like what point zero point whatever black people on staff, and so here's the result of that. I'm literally standing at the library. I forget the name of it, but it's on the shared campus of Spelman and Morehouse, where the most doctors, the most lawyers, the most professionals that are black are get their credential. And I asked Google, hey Google, where are the black professionals? I got uh, black pussy porn. Excuse my French. That was like on that campus. Google couldn't find it. I could literally say, "Hey Google, tell me how fast Mars is flying through space around the sun," and it starts answering immediately. This is why Black Lives Matter. Realizing that those things, those algorithms that run our lives, that run the planet, have erased us. Google can start answering immediately how fast Mars is moving through space. But when I'm sitting on the shared campus of Spelman and Morehouse, it can't tell me where the black professionals are. And what that means is that black people can't find black professionals either.
I have thoughts on that. I have respectability thoughts on that.
Yeah.
I have thoughts on that about trying to find black professionals in general, because we don't get the same amount of education. We don't get the same amount of opportunities. Once again, cycling back to systemic racism, poverty, respectability, politics, all the shit that I think is complete bullshit. Pardon my French, but we're being super real. So I'm just,
Yeah.
No,
and if
let's
you
be
know me,
real.
I'm a swear word aficionado. So I think it's fucking trash. I think it's bullshit. I think the people that program these things are not all white, but their information gets whitewashed, and everything that we get fed and get digested is whitewashed before it reaches us. There's a million, East Asian devs. There's a million, black devs that are out here. I know you guys don't know who they are, but they exist. Just because you don't see us doesn't mean we don't exist. So I hate whenever people are like, there's no black devs. There's a ton of black devs. My husband's a black dev. I'm married
Right.
to one. We're
Right.
out here. Just like there's no black girl gamers. We got a whole group of black girl gamers. T-Pain just shouted us out. Like we got a whole thing going. We're vibing. We're thriving. Just
Right.
because you're not seeing us doesn't mean that we don't exist. And I hate the idea of we can't find you. You can't. You can.
Right.
Just because Google doesn't show you where we are, or just because you don't know any in your circle, doesn't mean that we don't exist. Just because it's harder to find. It's that comes down to our whole society not wanting to do a lot of work in general. We're all lazy. Let's just be real. We're complacent. We're reliant on technology. We don't do work. We don't do emotional things because we're all incredibly burnt out because our society makes us work to death because we think money and owning things are super important. It's a whole thing. It's very punk rock. I won't get into it, but the fact of the matter is Spelman and Morehouse are some of the most well known because they get all the money from the white colleges. Okay.
Right.
There's a million black colleges that aren't, that's not where the most professionals come from because those colleges are the beacon of whiteness in the black community. I live right next door to Jackson State University. I got Tougaloo College. I'm here in Mississippi. We got black colleges. We got a bunch of them. They just don't get Spelman money because every time these white colleges hand out cash, where do they hand it out to when they're doing their diversity stuff? Spelman and Morehouse.
Yeah.
Because they think that's where all the respectable Negroes go to. But that's not a fact. That's not a fact. And you don't have to be respectable or be a professional to have gone to college. That's trash. It's trash.
Right.
Education's trash because education shouldn't be hid behind a paywall.
Right.
Sorry. That's just how I feel about it. I
No,
feel
no.
like education should be accessible for every single person in this country. And with the internet, it is, but not everybody has the internet because some people are rural and some people are poor. And that goes back to systemic racism.
Yeah.
Like education and basing people being respectable or professional off education is trash. And it's part of white supremacy. It's part of dismantling that supremacy that our friend was talking about here. You have to dismantle supremacy. And how do we dismantle that? We remove the things dismantling whiteness is dismantling and taking the bars off of education because white people have wielded education like a bludgeon that they beat us with to keep us out of things. And if we allow people to use education to beat us down with, we are losing from the beginning. We're losing from the moment we learn to speak. So that's how I feel about that. Education is so incredibly important. If you can help somebody on their journey, if you can help them learn, you're taking, that is the beginning step of dismantling supremacy to me. It is taking the bars off of education.
Yeah, I'm glad you're bringing up like education. Just everything that you bring up is absolutely fantastic. Like I come from Massachusetts, and I spent a lot of time in Boston going to school and living there and working there. And that is like a big education hub. Like that is like supposed to be some shining beacon of like liberal arts and education on the East Coast, right? And I can tell you, like, I've literally only ever directly worked with 5 black people. I can name them. I know exactly who they are. And one of them, I think I only kind of directly worked with, and that's it. And it doesn't make sense. Like to be in this place, it's supposed to be this like liberal, amazing place where everyone is equal and there's supposed to be a lot of racial justice. And that Boston's racist. That is a racist city. And it blows my mind to have all of these like morals and values being preached from these educational higher ups that are trying to push diversity and say, hey, like Black Lives Matter and all these other like demonstrations that happened in the city. And it's like, I've only ever really worked with this many people, this many black people. That makes sense. There's so many people I've worked with that look exactly like me. And it's just like, it's mind blowing to have education be that blocked off from an entire section of people for honestly, like for no reason besides the color of their skin. It's gross. And because of money. Yeah. And because of everything that you mentioned. I just don't want to. I don't want to just like rephrase everything you've said, but I'm just really glad you brought that up.
Well, it's always I want to use the word ironic, but it's telling, right? It's saying the quiet part loud when people find ways to criticize Martin Luther King Jr. One of the things they like to say is he was socialist, right? And he was flawed in many ways. Being a socialist was not one of them. Being a socialist is just understanding the way society is meant to work. And so when we start talking about education or opportunity at its foundation, things that cost money that aren't supposed to cost money, healthcare, education, honestly, like a place to live, like there's a bunch of like baseline shit that you should just get because you're alive and you're human and we have the resources, particularly in this country. And to go back to what Zombie said, like when you think about white supremacy, one of the like core, like foundational pillars of white supremacy, particularly in this country, is our adherence to capitalism in a toxic way. Like we're not just a capitalist society. We like capitalism is a religion to us, right? Yeah. Like consumerism is a religion to us. We build our identities around what we can get, what we can have, right?
Yeah.
And it's what our self-worth ends up being based in as well, right? Because that's what we're taught. And the idea that and to take that further, like I went to college for 100 years and never got a degree because I figured out pretty quickly like that wasn't what I was there for, right? They had really cool libraries, right? And I was like, there is no place I can go. I went to like a Big Ten school, huge campus, and there was no place I could be where I could spend this like few $1,000s a year and have access to all the knowledge I could ever want to have access to, right? And yes, it did cost me a few $1,000s a year, but I, had that few $1,000s every other year, because I would work for a year and I would go to school for a year, right? But the fact that I love the term paywall being used there, right? Because it's because people can understand the problematic elements of what a paywall is, which is this doesn't have to cost money. We've just decided it does.
Yep.
That's an excellent comparison.
Right. That's why I think
it's
that was infuriating.
A great thing.
Yeah.
It's infuriating. Yeah. It's infuriating because that's the basis of everything we've been taught, guys. Yeah. Just like what Myron was talking about. Like it's the basis of our entire society is about being smart and being wealthy, right? And you can only be wealthy if you're smart enough. But we won't let Black people be smart enough. Right. We won't. And so if we just started there, that is the biggest brick, yanking it out from underneath this white supremacy. That's the biggest brick we can throw through the windows is making sure that we just focus on education. Right. Focus. Let's go there. Let's just go there. This one thing we could do, besides emptying out our prisons. That's a big thing too. But this one thing would change every life, every Black life. This one thing. I'm so over the Black Lives Matter hashtag right now because I want to be like education matters. Let's start dismantling. I want to start dismantling the system. I want to stop focusing on anything else other than how can we dismantle white supremacy? How can we dismantle it every day? Since you said that the other day, see, it's been in my brain. It's been in my brain nonstop. I mean, it's always in my brain, but like I didn't have a verbiage for it, right? So now I'm just like, how can I dismantle this supremacy? What can I be doing to dismantle this? How can I fight this? How can I fight the school to prison pipeline that people don't talk about as enough? But like, how can I dismantle all of this? So that's what's been on my brain since we all started having these conversations. Yeah. Like, that's a big move.
It's so enlightening to see this kind of like this exhaustion with the Black Lives Matter hashtag that you're showing right now. Like this is amazing. It shows us like just your patience is with just white people is just done. It's
I'm
gone.
done. I'm done. I'm so sorry for you guys
and you have
individually. But I hate white people right now. I'm
Not a big
tired
fan
of
of
you
them myself.
guys
Yeah.
as a whole. Like individually, we can work shit out.
Mm-hmm.
But like as a whole, white supremacy is poisoning the world. It is a sickness that needs to be purged before we can all start to be well again. And I'm so tired of being sick. And I don't know anybody else who's tired of being sick, but I am so tired of this sickness. I'm tired of every time I log on to Twitter seeing another black man murdered, somebody being hanged, somebody being drugged, somebody being whatever. I live in Mississippi. This is my reality every day. So, like, a lot of America is seeing all this and they're so outraged. But, like, I live in the place where black men get hanged a lot. I live in a place where the Klan is super active. They march all the time. I mean, if you know anything about Mississippi, you know what I'm living through. Like, we're talking about, I still live in the Jim Crow. Like, I live in the Jim Crow. So I see this every day. So, what everybody's now super woke about on Twitter has been my life forever. Prison work is my life's work. It's been my life's work for the past 8 years. I go to the prisons a lot. I deal with people in prison. It's my life work. Not just now because it's Vogue. It's my life work forever. So for me, I'm tired of the hashtag. I'm tired of people performative stuff. I'm tired. Just start doing stuff. Start putting money where your mouth is. Don't cash at me because it's Juneteenth. I don't give a shit.
Right.
Go pay for somebody's education.
Mm-hmm.
Go unlock something for somebody. Let's do some actual achievements in the game world. Like, let's unlock some stuff. So just,
Yeah.
I'm tired.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
you know, like,
That's good.
let's go unlock some things. Let's go buy some passes for people into this world. You really want to be an ally? Go mentor somebody in your industry. You know, Chris, Chelsea, all you guys work in the games industry. Find you somebody to mentor. Find you somebody to pull up. Like, do something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
This performative shit is exhausting and tired. I'm tired of it.
No.
And I'm just being real. You
That's
know,
right.
Myron? You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? I mean, you know, we had a very long talk when we talked. It's exhausting. All these little podcasts about Black Lives Mattering and representation are exhausting for me. I've done like 25. I'm cool on them. And
Thank
I
you for
told him
joining us.
that. And I told him that when we talked, I said, I don't want to do another talk about it because you already fucking know. You already know we should be represented.
Mm-hmm.
Shame on you for not doing it. Shame
Right.
on you for doing it now. Shame. Not
Yeah.
celebration because we're here now. Shame on you.
Yeah.
Shame on you for not doing it sooner. And you got to be shamed. There has to be a discussion about how you fucked up, not about how great it is that you're doing it now. Let's just talk about the fact that you fucked up because that's what you would do if we were in therapy together. Me and my white people, you know, relationship therapy. You know, if there was a therapist with me and white America, it would be like, but you fucked up though.
Yeah, I'm gonna write that down.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Real. That's good. I love it.
You know,
And we need to feel that shame. We need to feel it and we need to own it.
you know, it's funny. It's a really interesting. What you were just saying there, ZombaeKillz, is that you know that reminded me of this thing that I've said to people. You know, like I think 97% of white people in the United States don't have a black friend or a friend of color.
Mm-mm.
And by black friend or friend of color, I mean someone that will actually talk to you about race, who feels safe with you. And so if there's someone that you know, so like I have a few friends that are like that, and I say, you don't get credit for me.
Boom.
You don't credit. You
Yeah.
don't get credit for me.
You don't.
I'm in the 1% of the 1% of the planet. I can move to different countries and still succeed. There are very few people who can do that on the planet of all races and cultures. So you don't get credit for me. You get credit.
I'm sorry. If 97% is a real number,
Yeah.
given where most of the population of the United States lives, do you know how hard that is?
You have to burn
You have to go out of your way to not have a black friend.
You got to burn real calories, dog.
Go ahead. Tell them they avoid it.
Yeah, like I'm sorry to interrupt you, but like that's like, come on, man.
Yeah.
And then they
Okay.
all have the one acceptable black friend, right?
Yeah.
That dilutes their blackness enough for them to feel comfortable with
Yeah,
them.
I'm like, you don't get credit for me. Like, you get credit. Like, if you're really friends, like if your kids have some black friends.
Mhm.
I know Chris has been doing the work on this. When he said, I realize I don't follow enough black people on social media on your thing, that hit me. Like, they really out here not even following us on social media,
Yeah,
y'all.
I
What
went
the
I
fuck?
went through my follow list, and it's like there are a few notable people, especially in the industry. I try to follow a lot of industry people just because
It's your
I'm a
job.
nerd,
Yeah.
because it's my job,
Yeah.
what I do.
Yeah.
But like, there are so few that I actually actively follow, and that's like I see a few up on because the algorithm's like, you like this person a lot, but it's like there's so few, and I need to be better about that because I know that there are people in the space that have the same interests, that we think the same way, and we totally just get
And you can
along
have
and talk about shit, and
friends.
I can have more
You can
friends.
have
It's the
black
coolest
friends.
fucking idea. But it's like I can have black friends, and I want to have a diverse group, and it's just like I look and like, oh, I only, like I said earlier, I only worked with like 5 black people, but then I also look at my friends group, and it's like, this so white, it's so
Yeah.
white, and it's
So
like
on Twitter, I had to do that for black women. Like I had to like manually change the way my Twitter
Mhm.
timeline looked to be like, hey, there's this whole powerful group of humans that you are not listening to because they didn't fall in your lap,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like, so that's the thing to keep in mind too, is like, even when voices are being amplified, it's still this narrow
Yeah.
like group of human beings.
Mhm.
And you got to go out, and like what's funny though is once you start adding people, then it gets really easy to add more people because you get pulled into it through the algorithm, right?
Mhm.
But if you
Yep.
don't do it deliberately, Twitter's never going to do it for you, right?
Yeah, you're totally right. I have noticed a difference, especially since I've actively been following more black content creators, including you, Zombie.
I
Just to
know. I noticed you. I noticed you there. I was like, look at this little guy. Here he comes.
I'm making an effort. I really want to be
I said,
better.
look at him. He's got his black loud friend now. Here she is. She's here. You're welcome. My timeline's pretty anti-white. Sorry for that in advance.
No, it's all right. Honestly, we deserve it.
I've been out here having the whole unpopular opinion in the games industry prior to this moment.
Mm-hmm.
Prior to this George Floyd catalyst, right? Because crises precipitates change.
Mm-hmm.
Prior to this catalyst, I was real unpopular in the games industry. Like, I was real little and unpopular because activism and gaming, nobody wants to hear the gamer talk about politics because we're white and fragile, and we cannot handle the video games and being told about life. And so I was always an activist and a gamer. I'm an activist first, a streamer second. Okay. Activism is my life. I'm on a board of directors for a nonprofit called Justice and Maternal Support, where we talk about birthing and shackling laws and we work on stuff like that. Like, we do a lot of stuff. Okay. Right. And then I always talked about it in gaming, and it was really uncool because our industry that we work in, politics and gaming, politics as such a loose word for human rights, right? What the hell? Yeah. And my opinions don't matter. I'm supposed to play the games, be sexually available, right? As a girl, and be sexually appealing, which I'm not. I'm fat, black, not available at all to anybody. And I play games C+ level, A+ entertainment though. But whatever. And it wasn't cool. It wasn't fucking cool until like 2 weeks ago. And now all of a sudden I'm fucking popping off. And I'm like, y'all do realize that when you guys get tired, when you get your ally fatigue, which isn't a fucking real thing, just like, it's just not. But when you guys get tired of black people, we're going to suffer for it. So don't performatively come follow me. Not calling you out, Chris, but I'm just saying, like, people. But don't performatively come follow me. Don't come sit in my streams for 2 weeks. Right. Don't come support us for a small amount of time and then pull it back, because that shit is actually going to be worse than never following us in the first place.
Yep.
Right.
Mhm.
You know,
Yeah. I haven't wanted to pop into the conversation because I feel like I'm cutting off really good thoughts, but this week I spent a lot of time, and it's bad that I have to say this week, right?
Yep, I'm feeling the same way about that one.
But also, the podcast that I listened to, Brene Brown, Unlocking Us. Brene Brown is an amazing, amazing human. She has been integral to my mental health journey. As a part of that, she is very good personal friends with Austin Channing Brown. And just recently, last week, they filmed an episode together um, on Unlocking Us, which I highly recommend wherever you consume your podcast to snag that. Austin Channing Brown is an amazing author, and this week she told a story that really hit me very intensely because uh, she and Brene basically said white weariness is something that, um, Zombie, you just kind of alluded to it, but Black people live this life every single day. There is no such thing as weariness for this cause because it's a daily life situation. And so the weariness that's happening with white people, this exhaustion is actually reality of inequality. It's not something you can get tired of if you're black.
yeah,
It's not something you can get tired of if you're a woman in an industry where there are none. It's not something you can get tired of if it is a part of your identity which has had a systemic situation of disadvantage. You can't get tired of it. It is life. There isn't a weariness factor. And I know that we can't play the game of equivalencies, but for me and for my mental health and for many people, there's a relation that has to happen. And that was a very strong example of a place of privilege. You can't get tired of it because it doesn't exist. And so I love the point that you just made there. A few years ago, there was a large explosion in the cosplay community about the exact thing of can black women be white female characters? Can they cosplay? And the fact that cosplay even elicits that reaction or that that's a thing, this is a community of love and enjoying, and just like games. Like why do we care about that when
yeah.
you're doing something that you love, when you're around people that you love, when you're a human? It doesn't matter.
Can we talk about why the cosplay debate was one of the most out loud racist moments in that subculture?
I
Like,
don't.
people forgot what cosplay was.
Yes.
And part of it's because it's been hypersexualized at this point. Part of it is because it's been highly commoditized at this point. And so as soon as things get commoditized and or sexualized, various walls come up that didn't exist before that.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah, just
But
like in gaming. Yeah,
yeah,
It's a
100%.
financial system. It's
it's
a financial system.
literally costume play.
Play.
The
Play.
flesh of the human in the costume is
Is irrelevant.
irrelevant
Yes.
to
It's irrelevant.
the costume.
I'm a cosplayer, and I've played white characters and had people be like, "Who are you?"
Yeah.
This costume is so tight. You know who the fuck I am. This costume is tight.
But
Don't even play that. Just
It's
because
like
I'm
so
fat and
crazy.
black doesn't mean you don't know who the fuck I am. I'm Sailor Moon, bitch. Like,
the amount
you
of
know.
shame. The thing is though that as a person, like I'm so impressed with your ability to say, like, there's no shame in your voice when you say that. And I feel so bad for people like myself who I couldn't own, like, if someone said that to me, it would fucking crumple
I am
my
black, girl.
identity.
I have to take up space because if I don't
I
take up
know.
fucking space, they will make me so small that I will cease to exist.
So that like, to bring this to my mental health journey, learning to make space for myself, I am so proud of people learning to make space for themselves in whatever capacity, and seeing the world community, because it's not just America. Like, you're not just making space for yourself, you're demanding it militantly.
Yep.
Fucking do that thing.
We have to.
Bring-
You have to do it too. I mean, you're a woman still. Even though you're white, you're still a
Right, but
woman.
it's not
Like,
equivalent, but
it's
that's the way
not,
I
but it
relate to
is.
it. Right, I get
It's
it.
not, but it is.
I totally get it.
You have to take up space. If you don't take up space, this world will crush you to a tiny nothing. Like
Yes.
and that goes for. I will say this. That goes for everybody except for cis white males. That goes
Sorry.
that goes for everybody except for. Sorry, Chris. Chris, I'm so sorry. I feel like we
No.
bonded.
Actually,
and
don't
I'm
be sorry.
Oh, this is great.
I'm
Don't
not actually-
apologize.
I'm like,
for any
sorry,
of
not
this.
sorry, but
I agree with you.
but like this world will crush you if you don't just like you. Like I don't just like me. I love me. Like I have
So
to.
important.
Nobody
have
else
to.
is gonna love me the way I love me, baby. I'm gonna love me the best I can. And I think at the end of this day, I can't say, oh, Black Lives Matter. We can't say that if we're not loving ourselves and we're not loving all Black lives. Fat Black lives, thin Black lives, gay Black lives, trans Black lives, rich Black lives, poor Black lives, incarcerated Black lives, etc. Do I need to go on?
That dude that didn't return your video game. You
Yep.
know what I'm saying?
It's
Like,
like,
Yeah.
you know.
So like, DeRay McKesson came to speak at Riot. Sebren, I think you were there. Were you able to watch that presentation? He's an amazing activist, and he gave some insanely startling statistics on incarceration and the justice system. But the craziest thing that stuck out to me about police reform, to go there for a second, and something that was amazing for me to recognize, because I've applied it in other spaces of my life, but hearing it was, police should not be responding to mental health issues. Oh my God. How freaking logical is that situation for reality? Because, and then he gave only 5% of cases that police officers respond to have to deal with serious violent crimes.
Yeah, so here's the thing about prison. Like, and Zombie can speak to this, like our policing reflects our prison culture. And the reality is we have criminalized everything.
yep.
And so
Yes.
so people with mental health problems go to prison. People with addiction problems go to prison. People that are just too poor and are struggling hard enough that they had to try to make ends meet via whatever means, they go to prison. Like everybody goes to prison. And since you're going to send everybody to prison, then who do you send to get them?
Yep.
So I'm not gonna, it makes me a little emotional, so I'm sorry.
Don't apologize for that.
A lot of the people, the humans that I was incarcerated with, should not have been incarcerated.
Most of them.
There were a lot of women that couldn't even read. I don't know how they signed pleas. A lot of women were in there because of domestic stuff. A lot of women were in there because they were sex workers who were abused and pimped out by their families. A lot of people were in there because they were feeding their addiction. I met a 16-year-old girl in prison. She was 16. She was in big girl prison with me. She was obviously autistic, or there was a disconnect, right? She was really pretty, little mixed girl. She was in there for sexually assaulting a boy that was younger than her. He was like 14 or 15, but with her mental state, I'm not sure that it happened that way. I didn't believe that it happened that way. I think that she was probably the one taken advantage of from what I could tell, just because she couldn't function, right?
Mhm.
But she was a very pretty little girl in there with predators. I was in there with predators, like real people. I didn't do anything to be in jail with predators, right?
Right.
And I was in there with people that were violent and horrible, and I witnessed people being raped and beaten. I witnessed people die, things that I never saw in my life. But this girl laid on her bed one night, and I kept hearing people go over to the microwave. We got a microwave on the weekends that people could heat up like their Pop Tarts or whatever they got off commissary if they were lucky enough to have that money.
Fuck.
And you get it for like an hour, you know? And they would bring it in the zone and they plug it in for an hour. And I kept hearing people using the microwave over and over again, and they were heating up water, which they then poured on her face and melted her skin off of her face because she was a sexual predator. And I will never forget that to me, because this girl could not intellectually have a conversation with you. She couldn't maintain eye contact. She couldn't read. She couldn't anything. And they preyed on this girl, just like she got preyed on to end up in the system. So for me, whenever people talk about prison or people in prison and all this stuff, it infuriates me. I was worked every day from 4:30 a.m. until we got back to zone at 6 p.m. every night. We're made to cut the highway yards, pick up trash on the side of the highway. We clean all the state offices of the legislators, etc. We go in and we clean and do manual labor, clean out their trash, scrub their toilets. You're taken to do a job every day. We're free labor. It's slave labor.
Yeah.
It's enslavement.
Yeah.
It's disgusting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it's set up that way because of, like what Sebren was saying, you look at the percentage of people, and I think Chelsea was saying as well, you look at the percentage of people who are in there that are of color, and you see why it was set up that way. If you ever get a chance, take a look at the percentages of people in Germany that go to prison and what the German prisons are. Or
Norway. Norway has the best prison system that could possibly exist.
Yeah.
Their model of prison is what our model of prison. Prison is supposed to be about reform.
Yeah.
Not about breaking and damaging people and making them unfit to re-enter society. If I wasn't of a stronger absolution of person, if I didn't have the support system that I had, I would have been lost forever.
Right.
And that is important to note. And there are people in there that are being broken for life. And it's mainly what color people in there? Brown.
Yeah. I think that those lives matter. Not only Obama-esque, Spellman-esque, etc. And I'm gonna move us forward a little bit, but I'm gonna capture a theme that you said, Chelsea. And I'm gonna paraphrase it. It's humanity. You didn't say this word, but I'm gonna add it in here because it feeds into the next question I'm gonna ask you all. It's empathy.
Yeah.
Just basic empathy for a human. And another story here or anecdote. I remember growing up in the United States before I realized I wasn't white, and it's something that happens very subtly. You watch these movies, and you see the good guys and the bad guys, and you vote for, you empathize with the good guy and his family and his friends. And so you begin to empathize with that person or those people or people that look like those people, and you get this indoctrination almost to, let's call it, Western North American society, where whiteness is the right thing. So you empathize with white people in particular. And some people, when they're given those sunglasses, they realize, and at a bunch of personal pain and effort and work, they realize that a win for white people is not a win for black people. And so So I asked this question. Um, in the here and now, um, should black people have empathy for white people?
Ooh. So I've been thinking about this over the week, and after just running through it, I think not right now. Just like no, like as early like Zombie was saying, is just like the patience is gone, and it's like right now, like white people don't deserve the empathy. They need to figure this shit out. They
Yep.
got to learn to dismantle all of this. They need to understand, like, just like the way it is right now, like everyone knows how white people feel. Everybody knows. You can't look anywhere without someone saying like white people feel like this. It's like everyone knows. You don't have a choice. So that feeling of like, oh, let me empathize with these white people, it's just like it's gone. It's like, why? It's like you keep shoving it down my throat of like how you feel and how everything affects you. And just like in the additional layer to that is the structures that we have built, and the society that we live in benefits us so much, and we are so myopic to it, and we're like, oh, it doesn't affect me, I don't really see it. And this is where the glasses being put on can come in. But we haven't earned that empathy yet. We haven't all had a collective awakening where we can really say, oh shit, we have been just completely destroying these lives. We need to revamp everything. We need to learn, we need to understand, and start earning that empathy back from black people and the black community.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I had a realization along with help that like and I'll credit Austin Channing Brown again for this and her book I'm Still Here, but um there's a conversation that happens in the first couple of chapters between her mom and her family, and a point is made that um segregation to integration meant a loss of the black economy. And that was a fucking mind-blowing deal, right? People stopped going to the black schools, all of the black teachers lost their jobs. All of the black businesses lost their proprietors, and the economy was built on that of white people. Black people came to white people.
That's why we never should have integrated, but that's my opinion.
But so that is a intensely, like, I came from the South, and the perspective was integration was an amazing thing.
No.
Right? Exactly.
A lot of people don't take the
why
time.
shouldn't you have empathy for white people right now? Because we systematically figured out how to economically benefit from this system.
There it is. A white person said it.
But okay, so then let's take it a step further, because I'm obfuscated from that. I've spent 30 plus years thinking integration was an amazing thing. Am I so glad that I had the experience of being around people of other colors? Yes. Did I realize it was hurting my friends of any color? Because let's be honest, all benefits the white person, regardless of cultural application. In Los Angeles, that is also true, and segregation is still very real in Los Angeles. Should you have empathy for me as Chelsea? Perhaps in a way that you can help me educate myself. If I'm willing to do the work, to come to you, to ask the questions, to have a fucking hard conversation, to do that, yes. And Zombie, you mentioned that, right? Individually, you're willing to work with me. You understand my identity as a woman or a person in games or whatever.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Should you have empathy with racists? Should you put the onus for you to come closer to a racist system as a black person of color? Should you see the victim as the person who has systematically created this situation? Fuck no. Would you want to go near someone who has wronged you? Like, mentally, that is the system of gaslighting. We have allowed that system to be if you want to be a nice and good human, it comes back to the niceness aspect that I was talking about, and I'll wrap this thought up. But you don't ask a person to have empathy after something terrible has happened to them. You don't come to a victim and say, like, well, they were drunk because they were having a terrible night and you should feel bad for them.
But our
Even though
society does do that for white
Yeah,
people.
people definitely do that.
They do that for white
Exactly, and
people. Our
that's-
society, like Dylan
Yep.
Roof, all these people, we do it
Yep.
for white mass
Yep.
murderers
Yep.
all
I
the
agree.
time.
We should not. So should you have empathy for white people right now? Nope.
I
No.
don't think right now. I don't think ever.
You're right. Sorry. Poor phrasing there. Yes.
I'll say it the way I said it in prep. I won't belabor this point. I don't empathize with the Yankees. I don't empathize with the Celtics. I don't empathize with the Cowboys or the Patriots. I don't empathize with teams that I don't like. I don't like the white team. I understand that, like, the indoctrination of Caucasian people into whiteness is thorough, highly effective, and incredibly beneficial to them. And so I understand why it's nigh impossible for people to stop thinking of themselves as white. I get it. But it's a choice. It's a team you're part of. And yes, you were born into it, but again, you're making that call. So have I ever empathized with white people? White people would need something for me to empathize with. What could I possibly empathize with a white person on, given that that person is saying this white supremacist structure that has ruined generations of your family and will continue to do so unceasingly. I'm part of that. Well, then where's our common ground, right? Like, I can empathize with Chelsea as a leader in QA. I can empathize with her as a minority in the game industry, right? I can empathize with Chris Rando when my man was like out there being a QA lead, like, who was like, I'm incredibly talented. Why do I not have a job today? Right? I've been there. I can empathize with that. But I could never empathize with the system. And I think that the forced acquiescence to the system has actually generated an animus that is the opposite of empathy, and has actually driven people to the point where they can't even empathize with the human being inside the jersey anymore.
Yes.
And I used to get upset about that. Like, I went through my period of literally hating anybody that looked white, evolved beyond that, and then after a fashion, realized that was probably a safer position to take. Right? You're more protected if you just keep your distance, right? So when Zombie said, for example, we should have never integrated, like, it's important that people understand what that sentence means, because that sentence isn't people should not be integrated, right? Like, people should be separate. That sentence is integration, the mathematics of it,
Yes.
right? The system of it, the function of it, like, destroyed lives.
Integration is trash. I mean, it was trash.
Continues to.
It continues to be trash. And I'm not a big fan of Martin Luther King. So, I mean, I know everybody holds him up as a lot of people hold him up as a beacon. I'm more of a, like, and this is slightly problematic at times, but I'm more of a Farrakhan and Malcolm X type of person. Farrakhan can be very problematic. I do not say that he cannot be problematic, but he also had some very good points, and Malcolm X did too. Separate but equal would have allowed us to establish ourselves and maintain our footing in society, and that was the plan from the beginning. They acted like integration was so horrible. They made sure we felt the scars generationally. And they made sure it was this, like, thing that we had to, like, strive for, this integration. Please accept us into your society. And we're still freaking begging to be accepted into society and for our lives to matter. We
Yeah.
should have kept it our own society. Because I'm just saying, we would have been on some Wakanda shit if we didn't have white people fucking holding us back, is all I'm saying. But like, I just think, yeah, the context was important. Like, I need you to know that we were doing fine. We would have been doing fine when we would have established ourselves and been able to come to a different thing. I'm not sure what it would have looked like, because I will never know what it would have looked like, because we were so desperate to force ourselves into the master's house that we forgot what it was going to be like. And we didn't realize what this would look like this many years later. The fact that Black people as a whole, we have generational trauma that's being passed down in our DNA. They've been doing studies on it. Like, it's literally racism and the effects of it are passed down. Generational trauma is science. It's happening. So, like, the fact of the matter is, they're literally, this system is changing us down to our DNA, and that's scary. The erasure of our people is real. The dilution of our people is real. Like, the just utter and complete wiping out of our culture is real. We can't have anything without it being taken and mass reproduced, and then they try to exclude us out of it anytime we have anything. Um, and that's wild to me. Like, so having empathy for white people is non-existent for me. And I mean that with no, I'm feeling sorry. I have no empathy for white people as a whole. I have no empathy for whiteness. None. Zero. Dismantle whiteness. Dismantle white supremacy. Do it every single chance you get. Make sure you're intentional about it. Make sure that your heart is in it. There is no such thing as being weary and tired when you're Black. So there's no such thing as being weary and tired as white people dismantling the system that you've built. It's time for you to put on your gloves and start dismantling it every fucking day. You shouldn't feel empathy for other white people. You shouldn't feel it for yourselves. You should feel upset, stressed out, unable to sleep, tired, anxious about your existence in society, and make a fucking change with it.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
Vote,
that's how I feel about it.
make the change. Like, I have been thinking a lot, and I'm going to derail here for a second, but I want to come back to it, because the hard thing I've been dealing with, and this is going to be a vulnerable moment, is in this crisis, this health crisis, for those people who have difficult situations, what can I do right now? And that's not me asking you, that's like me saying, I am trying to figure out during the health crisis what I can do right now. One thing that I've discovered is obviously vote, right? But the other thing is really searching myself to understand where systemically I've been supporting a system that is unequal, unfair, whatever you like. Fairness is a difficult thing, but unequal definitively, and be militantly upset with myself and my family and my friends and stick up for those things. And it's been hard, right? I Not everyone is a go out and protest in the street for many reasons right now, whether it be health or economic situation or whatever. But one thing that I can do, that I'm putting in the work to do, what can I do? Not ask you what I can do, but find what I can do for myself.
Right. It's a journey. I said at the top of this podcast that I'll start off by saying that I don't feel empathy for white people or whiteness, and I went to therapy because it was 50-50 that turning into hate. 50-50. And I love a lot of Caucasian people. My wife is white or Caucasian, and half of my family is Caucasian. And I knew that I was going to have to do some real work Some of that work was going to be how to save relationships. 20%, 80% of that was how to get rid of relationships where I was not safe. And preparing myself to do whatever it takes for me, Myron, a black man, to be safe, no matter who cares. And that journey took about 5 years. That's why I can comfortably say I don't have empathy for whiteness. Now, when I say that, the indoctrination into the Western United States system makes me feel anxious because we are also taught that white people are good and that a win for white people is a win for us, even when the data, even when our lived experience shows us that it isn't a win for us. We fall in line. At 13% of the population, I think 96% of black people voted for Hillary Clinton. People complain about Trump all the time, and I'm like, no, it's not Trump. It's whiteness that's the problem. All we have to do is have less white people vote for Trump. In the absence of white votes, Trump doesn't become the president and threaten the entire universe.
He's literally like the criminal that's like a joke. like a joke comic book villain. He's turned into that at this point,
Yeah.
right? Like he's like literally like stroking a cat, like hiding in his bunker.
Oh,
like
yeah.
he's a
Right.
fucking whack job.
But
You
the
know?
thing is, right? Whiteness is trying to distract us from whiteness with him.
Yeah.
So like I'm like, yo, like so like I'm in Canada and people are like, yeah, what's Trump doing now? I'm like, no, it's not Trump. It's not Trump. It's not it's not Trump. That's Americans. That's us. That is the white system that is there. Trump is a hoax. Trump is fake news.
Trump is the caricature to distract you.
Yes.
Yeah. There's a lot of working wheels in motion that are the supremacy.
Yep.
Yeah.
Can we go back to it? Just it's all part of supremacy. And if
Yeah.
I think
we worked on
also
it,
like there's a piece of it that's like this prove me wrong culture that is just so diseased.
Yeah.
And I can't handle the system's not broken. Prove me wrong.
Right.
It's not my job to prove you wrong. It's
Right.
your job to show me the work that you're doing.
Yeah, show us that
It's
you
not
can
my
grow.
energy is not to be spent on proving you wrong.
that's exactly how black people feel, Chelsea. Right, that right there is how we feel
Yes.
about everything right now.
And I
Like that's literally take
Yep.
that
Yep.
energy, times it, like bottle it for 401 years, boom, you got where black people are.
Yo. Yeah.
You're right.
Brit to the knee. Awesome name, first of all, and Trump is the puppet. And you're right, Zombie. That is exactly what happens. Like it's like in Chelsea as well.
She
Prove it to me.
said it perfectly. Like
Yeah,
she
prove it
said
to
it
me.
perfect.
Like I was studying neuropsych based school psychology, and I was talking to white friends about like literally theoretical operations of the brain related to certain lobes of the brain, and like whether the person has lesions or not could determine if they could actually do arithmetic, like addition and subtraction. It's pretty fascinating stuff. And I was explaining to people because I was like reading this shit, and I was like, "Look, here goes blah, blah." And people be like, "Oh yeah, that's really interesting. That seems to be true." But I'd be like, "Yo, you know what? That security officer was following me. Did you see that?" Like, no. What do you mean? What are you talking? Are you sure? But I'm like, yo.
You have to treat white people like all their frontal lobes are missing. Like I hate to say that, but
I'm like, yo. I'm a professor and an infant at the same time. Right?
it's a disease. It's a mental illness. Whiteness is a mental illness.
It's a. Did we? I don't think we got. Did we get everyone's answer on that question? Because I think we're
Zero empathy here.
zero empathy.
Zero empathy from the
I
white
think we
people
got
too.
it. Yeah.
Yep.
I think there was zero empathy for white people as a consensus.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and Sebren, I really like the way that you said it, and I'm gonna call that a theme. I like the person in the jersey, not the jersey. I think
Yeah.
that is the most. That is the dopest way of getting people, I think, to understand it. And it's about helping people to understand in a way that doesn't sacrifice your safety. And I think that's one of the things. If that's one of the things that you'll want to think about on your journey. How do I stay true to myself? How do I be insistent? How do I create an unstoppable me and not sacrifice anything of myself or my basic humanity, but leave some breadcrumbs for the people who are willing to do the work, for the humans who are good enough,
Yes.
who meet your basic standards. You can have standards. You can set up tests. You can set up expected results for what you want people who are ready to begin the work with you.
Look
And
at you in this
consider-
QA talk. What
Yes,
you doing?
yes. You see me over there? You can set up expected results. This is what a person who's ready for me to work with says. And
Yeah, I
compare
like that.
the actual results. If the actual results is fucking crazy, then okay, that's just a person I know.
Yep.
I'm gonna stay safe with my tribe. I'm gonna find my tribe anywhere in the world. We have an amazing opportunity right now. We can work with and where and with whom we want, anywhere in the world.
Yes.
Do that for you.
But that. So with anything that you're dealing with, you have to start here. So many of us want to start here.
Mm-hmm.
Partners. I mean, it's like this is psychology, right?
Right.
We do this with our life partners, with people who are close to us. And the reality is that these actions start here. It's why I super highly recommend therapy.
Oh man,
It's
therapy's
why
dope.
it's why I recommend you read if you don't want to do therapy, or you pick something that is your therapy, paint or draw or write or whatever. But like Myron, you said it.
Yeah.
You cannot build a healthy community if you can't be healthy yourself and investigate and dig in and lose your ego for yourself, because guess what? You're not here to be right. You are not on this planet to be correct.
If that was the
Regardless,
point, I'd be dead, girl.
right?
I'd be dead. I'm
Yeah.
such a deeply flawed person, and I think it's so important for people to realize how deeply flawed they are. Like,
Yeah.
we're all deeply flawed. White
Yeah.
people, black people,
Why do you want to
brown
be perfect?
adjacent.
It's
We're all
boring.
deeply flawed. But at the end of the day, like, you know, being a decent human shouldn't be so hard.
Right.
Hashtag people. You know, one note I want to say on therapists. And this is one of the ways that I've learned to contextualize, especially in a professional setting, how to create teams that support your safety. And it is about level of qualification. So when you go to a therapist, and especially if you're black, or if you're a black woman, or if you're a woman of color, someone who is not traditionally represented. I went to psych school. I went to a professional psychology school. And they literally don't teach people skills for servicing you.
I did an entire episode on this, just so you know. There's a lot of black mental health workers. You got to find a non-racist therapist, but there's a lot of safe spaces for black people in mental health. Just seek out people of color who can understand race trauma.
Yeah,
it's important.
Yes, they literally intent doesn't even come into it, because they have literally not been given. They don't actually have the language or they've never been shown a page of literature, science-based, how to support you. When you go to a therapist and they don't support you, you don't feel supported, and you don't make progress, you can fire that therapist no matter what they say.
Yes.
I implore you. The same with doctors. When I go to a
Yes.
doctor and I say, you know what, I think I might have strep throat because 5 people in a room I sit in all day have strep throat and I'm coughing, and they talk with me about my weight for 2 hours, I fire them because I'm there about strep throat.
Yep. And you can do that with people in your life.
Yes.
It's not just your doctors or people you pay.
That is
You
a
can-
little bit harder though, Chelsea. Like
Oh,
I have a white mom. My mom's very racist. My mom's super racist. You know, like I've grown up my whole life. Took me a long time to find self love as a black person and to find my identity as a black woman because my mother convoluted the process.
sure.
So, like for me, I have a white mom. I have 3 white sisters who are like they're my half sisters, but they're my sisters. I don't call them half sisters. It's we all came from the same mom. So, but like I live in Mississippi with a white mom who's racist with 3 white siblings. It's definitely a journey, and it's harder for some people. I've minimized like my family doesn't acknowledge my existence. My dad was adopted, so he has no family. And then I have my mother's family who don't acknowledge that I exist. My 3 white siblings, they give them college money. They have family reunions that they've all gone to. They do all kinds of stuff. And I've never been invited to any of it. I couldn't tell you the name of a cousin I don't know these people. But like, so it's hard for some people in the beginning. And it was hard for me until I hit that like in my 20s grind where you're like, all right, I can find my own tribe, and I have my own tribe. One of them's in the chat right now, Jelly Tuxedo. That's my best friend. She's my tribe. She's worked with me through that. She's been with me in the hospital when I'm on my deathbed, you know, when my mom's not there, you know, like so like there are people that are struggling, you know, with this identity,
Sure.
and there's white people that are about to struggle with it with their families. Once
Sure.
you start supporting your friends, you guys are going to go through hell. Just know that there are black people that are going through the same hell in their families. Like we go through it too, like in a different way, obviously, because self-hatred is very poisonous in our community, just like colorism is very poisonous. And then as a biracial person, it's like you're not black enough, you're not white enough, because we have our own infighting because that was created by white people infiltrating our community and giving us these stupid standards that now we fight amongst each other over, which is dumb.
Ignorant white guy question. Is
Yeah.
that what colorism is?
Well, colorism can go 2 ways. A lot of times you see
Okay.
colorism about people who are super, super dark, like that people are made to feel like it's bad, and dark people are ugly, which to me, like, I love a Hershey colored person. Like, I wish I was more black every day of my life. I'm out in the sun. Like, please let me get as black as I can. Cause my dad's black. Like my dad is like the most beautiful shade of like deep dark chocolate. Like he literally looks like the human equivalent of a Hershey bar. It's awesome. And then, you know, I got white lady lips from my mom, so I'm a little sad, but whatever, you know. Thank God for my dad though, you know. But like my dad, the colorism goes that way, and then there's a lot of black women in the community who don't like seeing biracial children or don't like us identifying as black. But I promise you, when the cops pull me over or when a white boy took me home to meet his parents, I was black. And I am always black. I identify as black. My children, who are lighter than me, you know, I'm married to a black man, but our kids are both, some of them look a little bit blacker. And then one of my kids literally is what they call white passing, right? She is blue eyed and whiter than anyone in this chat right now, like whiter than you guys. People think I stole her from the grocery store. Like, I'm not kidding. Like, she looks like I stole her from the grocery store. And when people dare say about her not being black, I'm like, baby, she's black. She may not look black to you, but I raise her as a black woman. I explain to her that she's black. I let her know that she's black because when we go to a play date and her black mommy shows up, she's definitely going to be considered black. Right. And like, so colorism can kind of go either direction. Madam C. Walker just had a documentary on Netflix. You guys seen it yet? Anybody?
No.
I don't think so.
She's
No.
the first black millionaire female in America, okay, who made hair products. That movie very much displays colorism, and it's really great, and it's also really good entertainment, so watch it. But it talks about how she wasn't light enough to sell this white, lighter skinned house Negro woman's products. And then at the end, because the lighter skinned woman was underestimated because she was lighter skinned, they thought that she'd have all this privilege and all this other stuff, but she also screwed her over by stealing her formula. At the end, it's like the colorism should never have happened. These two should have worked together because they would have been an unstoppable force. But because they were too busy fighting over the tones of each other's skins and what society perceived them as, both of them kind of still lost out at the end because they spent so much time being bitter and fighting over this colorism.
Mm.
So colorism's a very real and very, talked about thing. Like, if you're mixed, you're not black enough. Like Halsey is all of a sudden not black because she's white passing. I don't believe that you're any less black because your skin. We come in a range of skin tones, guys. I mean, look at the blackness in this chat right now. We are a whole rainbow.
Yo, so like real talk on that. So like, I know I've mentioned a few times that I'm in Canada right now, and I have been introduced to, like, one of the first things that I notice here is when you meet a black person, they can tell you where their family's from and where their grandmother lives. So if you ever wind up living in Canada for a while, I highly recommend do some work first, because like if you're not ready for that, if you're not ready for someone to ask right after they ask a German or nationality, or an English nationality person, like where their family's ancestry is from, and then turn to you and ask that question with the same level of respect, um, if you haven't done some work, you might wind up crying.
That's one of the weird things about calling people of African descent globally, calling everybody black. Like the reason we're black is because we were born in a country where we don't know where the fuck we're from.
Yeah.
And so we needed to call ourselves something.
Yeah.
Like if I knew I was from Uganda, right, then like I wouldn't need to call myself black. I could just be from Uganda.
Yeah.
And so that's tough. Like I think what's so, again, the pervasiveness of white supremacy is we've just started calling everybody around the world black, and it's like, no, if you're from Jamaica, like you might just be Jamaican, or you might be able to ask somebody how you got to Jamaica, right? Like if you're in England, like you may very well be able to just ask your grandparents where you came from, whereas here in the United States we can't. But we had to paint everybody with that same brush, right? Because we needed to create that white superstructure across the planet, even though it's a very American thing.
Yeah, it's like Sebren, dude. Like, man, it is empowering and sad at the same time, because when those members of the black diaspora, or the African diaspora, you can see the pity in their face.
Yeah.
You can see it. And there's something about looking at someone who has 400 years of familiar wealth, and who knows their ancestry, and to understand that we have lost that, and that has been taken. No, we didn't lose it. It has been taken from us. I can go out right on the street right now and ask people where they're from, where their grandma. They have their language. They have their family wealth. They have their homes back on the island, or back in Eritrea, or Uganda, or et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And it is challenging. But it's, but on the types of black people, I am currently mentoring 3 women from the African diaspora. One woman is looks Southeast Asian. The African continent is really big. If you ever seen a real map of the earth, Uh, it's almost as big as Canada, North America, and South America. There are people. There are probably. I've been in a room with 1,000 Black professionals from around the world, and there I realized that there are probably more types of Black people than there are of white people, and that is something that is hidden from us in the United States. I'm mentoring 3 women that look completely different, but they're from this society. We're not told things like, "Oh, actually, they only dropped off about 300,000 of the slaves in the United States, and they took like more than 3/4 of the slaves everywhere else in all these places that they call the West Indies and all this other stuff." We don't learn about the West Indies. We don't learn the fact that like Puerto Rico, Bahamas, Cuba, all these places are used to be called the West Indies, and blah blah blah. We don't we don't hear about the fact that while the first corporation in the history of humanity in the universe was the Knights Templar, and the second one was the East India Company or the West India Company, and they were doing all this stuff for capitalism, to go back to that theme. But we are a number of different colors, and it shows a lot about whiteness, that people believe that they have the right or the ownership of you to tell you what you are. Nah, you're white. Or nah, you're black. I think you're muted, zombie.
Even our own people do that.
Yeah,
Because we've been so indoctrinated.
yeah.
What is that movie where it's like, even my conditioning has been conditioned? Most Def uses it in a song. Most Def and Talib Kweli. There's a song called Brown Skin Lady. You guys know that song? It's like one of my favorites.
I think
How
I
do you
feel
do? And it's a '90s jam. But like at the beginning of the song, he goes, "I'm so conditioned, brother. Even my conditioning has been conditioned." And it's literally a
yes,
fact.
yes,
We've been so conditioned that we're so focused on infighting about who's blacker that we can't even fight y'all. We can't
right.
dismantle white supremacy because we are literally perpetuating white supremacy in our communities.
Absolutely. And that's a really important point. I'm gonna I'd like to get to our third topic on that point to talk about today. And that is, in this moment right now where there are protests, and there's a call by humanity all around the globe for there to be changes, uh, particularly in the United States, but in other places like Canada and France as well, um, to honor the full humanity of Black people, or members of the African diaspora. But one of the things that you hear is, well, what about the riots? Well, where are the Black fathers? Well, what about this? What about black on black crime? And whenever I hear people talking, and that, I guess it's because I went to to psych school, and you're taught to think a particular way. And there's this idea of, when someone's exhibiting a behavior, the behavior can be them either like physically doing something, or speaking, or writing, and blah blah blah. Whenever you're witnessing a behavior, it's your job to interpret the function of that. Meaning, what are they trying to get out of that behavior? That's how therapy works. The person is typically saying the opposite thing of what they want to happen, and you untangle that, and you present the truth to them, and you help them to get to where they're going. So that's the function. The operational language of that is the function of what they're saying. And so when I hear people say, "Well, what about the Black fathers, or what about black on black crime?" I think about the function of that, and I think, what I'm hearing, and it seems like white people are asking this question, or shouting it as a dare. Well, why should I have empathy for Black people? And so I pose this question to you all. Why do white people seemingly ask that question? Well, why should I have empathy for Black people?
I think whether they realize it or not, a lot of white people realize they have everything to lose if the system changes. Right? Like, if 100 years from now things have changed so dramatically that white privilege no longer exists, what would it even be like to be white? Like, I think the vernacular of today is like, they're not built for that. Right? Like, if the world was an equally difficult place to function in for everybody, there is a large part of the population that is entirely unprepared for that level of difficulty. And I think in some cases, even if it's just like an innate feeling, I think they know, like, if this really changes, if I really accept that we've been cruel and we have inflicted unusual punishment on black people in America for 400 years, I've been complicit in a lot of horrible shit, right? B, I really do have white privilege, which means some percentage of what I have told myself as part of my self-worth that I have earned, I have not earned, right? And C, like, what does that mean? I have to give up. Isn't it easier to just be like, nah, B, they're looting. They're bad people, right? Isn't it just easier to just not do that? Like, as humans, we're super into self-preservation, even when it's self-inflicted damage, when we create the self-preservation, right? Like, our type 1 brain wants the easiest path, right? And we try to not engage our type 2 brain at all, right? Because that's actual work. And so to me, it's like, I could, Zombie said it earlier, we're all lazy, right? So it's like, well, I could do the work or I could go sit on the couch. Right? Like,
you just like hand wavy dismiss it.
Yeah, like that just seems easier. And that's dismissive as fuck, but I really do think that's part of what it is.
I mean, I agree. I think the hardest thing to recognize as a human, though, is that when one person wins, we all win. And so there's this economic drive because we somehow believe that fighting for another person means that we're going to lose something. And in reality, that I can't speak from an economic place because I'm not an economist. I don't know what that world looks like global economy wise. But I can tell you this, I look forward to a world where we're not having this conversation because we don't have to, where we're talking about other scientific, actual global needs because we don't have to talk about treating each other well. I don't want to be dismissive, but quite honestly, why are we having to have this conversation? A million reasons. Again, don't want to be dismissive. But there are other things that we as humans should be solving rather than treating other humans well, in my opinion. It is frustrating to see generationally the bread and circuses aspect of humanity replay over and over and over again. Like you said, it's easier to go sit on the couch. It's easier to catch the new Netflix special. It's easier for me to watch a special about racism than actually enact the change to make the economic difference, to make the systemic difference, to do the work. I can't even be bothered to vote. My vote doesn't count. Whatever the excuse is, like, I know that I have something to lose in a system of inequality as a white person, And that is fucked up. But I don't actually lose anything as a human by being a good human to another human and helping other humans.
Like, I feel like the way you said it earlier with just being able to move past treating people equally, it feels like just such an obscenely low bar. This is the lowest bar to be so
Yes.
lazy and complacent about. To just not be willing to give up some comfort.
Yes.
That feeling of like acknowledging what an entire group of people have done to another entire group of people based on their skin.
Arbitrarily. Not arbitrarily, but like, we don't choose this.
Yeah. It's something that just happens. It's just a color, and it has no base on anything. And yet it's such a low bar to treat people with that equality, with that same kinship that you have with other people who do share that quality that you had no control of over. And it just enrages me that we can't just so be the, like, just maybe I guess like going back to saying like, oh, it's so easy for those of us with white privilege to disengage. And like, that's what like the laziness came. It's like, oh, I watched my special,
choice.
like you just said, I have the choice. I have that choice where like, this is too much. I need to unplug. I'm going to go and I'm going to go play Doom for a while, and that'll just be fun. And I can step away for a little bit and let it kind of die out until I feel ready to engage with this conversation again. I have that privilege. And it's that low bar of not only just acknowledging it, but also trying to get rid of it and get out of it is so infuriating. It's such a bar that we can all just kind of like literally just trip over it and fall and just be done and move on. But it's just, we've let it go on for hundreds of years and have built entire structures around it. And it's infuriating. Absolutely infuriating.
Yeah.
I think.
go
I
ahead.
was gonna say. I think the question of empathy was so powerful when you talked to me about it. Like, why should we have empathy for Black people? And I think the simplest way I could put it, and maybe the most appealing to white people, is you guys don't exist without us. You don't have, your entire society is built on oppressing us. What do you do if we don't exist? Where do you guys go from here? Like, if we don't matter, if you can't empathize, if we continue to be exterminated at the level that you're exterminating us, you don't exist, and your systems will cease to exist. So what you can do is maintain your systems, and keep us around, or, because I mean, at the least, if you guys do nothing, if nothing changes, right, it doesn't affect you at all. It doesn't affect your white privilege. You lose nothing. Chris will still be white tomorrow. Chelsea will still be white tomorrow. You'll still see yourselves reflected in the media. You guys will not be penalized for not being better humans, which is problematic as hell, right?
Mm-hmm.
But we won't exist, if this keeps. They're systematically erasing us. There is a genocide that has been happening consistently, like Myron talking about other people knowing where they're from and everything else. We are victims of a genocide.
Yes.
They are raping us out of existence. They have killed us out of existence. They've stolen everything from us. And we are literally just nomadic people trying to survive and banding ourselves with other people that look like us at this point.
And written books to justify it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. They're teaching our children to justify it in school. They're teaching us to justify it. So I think the more that we talk about the question of empathy, that point of empathy is, if I have to appeal to you as a white person, I'll say, without me, there's no you. You don't exist. Your entire identity, white supremacy, doesn't exist without us. So let me appeal to you that way if there's no other way for me to appeal to you.
It's
But
fucked that you have to do that.
But if I'm appealing to you as a kind individual who's wearing the jersey, right? then I say, we matter. No matter what we've done, respectability, we matter, we exist. We enrich your life. You enrich our lives. If you're in the Jersey and we're here with you, we will enrich and create a better life. But if I have to talk to the team, you fucking need me. You
Yeah.
need me. You can't play in the arena unless I exist.
But I think that that also means that I'm saying that I'm learning how to say, as a person on this journey, that I need you. And I'm so thankful for you for telling me that you need me. And I'm sorry that you have to tell me that you need me. And that I'm going to work to learn not only that I need you, that I want you.
Yeah. See,
Right?
this relationship therapy 101. This is like literally a marriage. And that's how you have to treat race relations at this point.
Mm.
It has to
Yes.
be a marriage where people are doing the work to be married. Except for at this point, the white people cheated on the black people, and we don't really have to do no more damn work. You need to fucking prove you want to be in this relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Do you know what I'm saying? Like
No.
that's where we're at. And if we could compare it as a marriage, it's a fucked up one-sided marriage. So do the work, meet us there, go to your therapists, and figure this shit out. Because we're at the point where it's like, bitch, you cheated on me. I didn't cheat on you. You know, you
Mm-hmm.
you messed up this relationship, not me. So you
Prove
do
me
the work.
wrong.
Yeah, you do you. Work on you, get your shit together, and then come back to me because I was good the whole time.
Sure.
And that's kind of where the empathy question really just it resonated with me. It was just like, why do we need to have empathy? Bitch, we don't. We don't. We don't have to have no empathy. We don't have to have it. None of us have to have it. But I want to have empathy. I want to. I want to care. I don't want to hate white people on a global scale. Hate is kind of exhausting.
Mm.
Yeah.
And I hate white people. Like I hate them as a whole.
Right.
Individually, I've got a lot of rad Caucasian friends. Like a lot of rad Caucasian friends. I've got some seriously problematic Caucasian friends. I think we probably all do.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I mean, I live in the South. I'll say a good 40% of my Caucasian friends are deeply problematic, but I'm trying to take them off the team. Okay. Like I'm trying to
Right.
take them off the team.
But you're having to try to do that.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
I want to do that. And I'll explain
So, okay,
why.
so
Because
that's the difference,
a lot of
right?
black people I don't always want to do it. We don't always want to fucking do it. But there's sometimes there's a woman I know. I met her at a flea market, right? She's in her 60s. I won't say her name because I love her dearly.
Mm.
She is deeply problematic. She is from a very country place in Mississippi. She said something the other day about hosing down protesters because she's a Trump supporter on her Facebook. Now, this woman loves me. I know she cares about me. As an individual, does she like black people? I'm pretty sure from what I've gathered she doesn't. But I'm also the most liberal, outspoken black person I've ever seen on her timeline. But we friended each other over a love of crafts because I'm secretly a white woman inside, like of my crafting. Okay, it's a thing. I'm an old white lady internally, and so we became friends over crafting. And so I messaged her how bad that post hurt me because I said, "Do you realize that like the implications? Like you're old enough to know what hosing down black people is a reference to, right? Like." Integration, like
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
hosing us down like animals. And do you know the power and the force behind a hose? Like, it's pretty intense. If you've never been sprayed with a fire hose, like, it does damage. It'll rip all the skin off your body. Like, things happen. Like, it's not a good thing.
Mm.
And she called me immediately and said, "Oh my God, I never thought of that. I want you to know that I love you and I do think that you matter, et cetera, et cetera. And I don't want to upset you." And she started crying. And she was like, I know that I have a lot of work to do and I know that I have a lot of ideas that are wrong. And she's like, "But I love God and I love, this and I as a Christian, because we're both Christians, I live in the South, it's just a thing."
Mm.
She's like, "I need you to know that I love you and you matter to me. And the thought that I would hurt you by making that post or that some of these other white people that I know might have made it more racial, I don't want it to be known that way." And I explained to her why. We had a whole conversation about it. And she was like, I don't understand it. I don't understand the protesting. We talked about that. And she still didn't really understand it, but she tried.
Mm-hmm.
She went out of her zone as a 60 something, I think she's like 67-year-old white woman raised in Ellisville, Mississippi, to talk to me, a liberal black girl from DC,
Mm-hmm.
who's, a black activist. And we talked. And whereas she still supports Trump and is not ideally on the same path, her heart, her humanity was there enough for me to want to do the work. And I didn't feel exhausted by it because I knew her heart was open. And I think that's what it comes down to for every black person on your timeline. If we know your heart is open, it's not so exhausting. But if your heart is closed and you're saying your mind is open, that is a very different thing.
Yeah. I think that's a really, really important point. And I want to go, I want to answer that. Why does it seem like white people are asking the question? Why should we feel empathy for black people? And I want to answer kind of like in a long form way. And I have a prop. I think that white people tend to have that reaction because they know they've taken our home. They know that they've taken our ancestry from us. They know that they are the Dr. Frankenstein of what is happening. I think they realize that what is happening to us is a negative reflection on them of the worst that they can be. And so they don't want to talk about it. And if like in some cultures, if someone cheats on someone, uh, the society expects the woman to take care of the relationship because they're responsible for the relationship. And so the men get to do whatever anyway because it's a male dominated scenario, a society. And so if you're from a relationship perspective, if you are if you are whiteness and you've done all these things to black people, but everyone that matters, right, is also white, um, then you can just blame the black people for being the persons who were cheated on. And you don't have to address the problems because if you all say it's okay, it's okay. And so it is a combination of shame, fear. What about my kids? What do I have to give up? Um, and to illustrate that idea that we have no home, I have a book here. This book is called Without Sanctuary. And this is some of the grossest things that white supremacy has done to black people. Uh, this is actually a book that was published in the United States, and it is all postcards of people in their Sunday bests, watching and observing hangings, and writing letters to white friends and family. And if you don't remember anything from this conversation, remember that this is the 1940s, 1950s, and white people, all white people, only white people, got together and did this. And this was so normal for white people that they took photos of it and sent it to other white people. Yo, you know what's going down next Sunday? You should come and check out the county fair where we're going to be hanging a few more people. This happened to
It
us.
still happens.
It still happens.
It still happens in Mississippi
It's up to
so
6
often.
right now in the United States, right? And,
Yeah.
and so I bring all that up to say, when you experience people in your life that are saying those things, you can't forget that image now. Now, what are you going to do about it? If you're wondering, before we open up for the open discussion with the viewers who have joined us today, and we love you all for being here. You may be wondering, well, what do I do next? And the answer is pretty simple, but I think it's pretty deep, but pretty simple. Leave here and do literally anything to dismantle whiteness. Anything you can. all the time. You are aware now of what this is. That book and these conversations are what it is. And if you don't do what you can to dismantle whiteness, then you are accepting whiteness. You are either an anti-racist or you are a racist supporter. There is no other option for you now.
I love that. So many people are walking the lines and they're like, I just don't want to talk about these things. I have to, I can't speak up on it. Okay, well then you're a racist. Facts. Oh, I don't want to be labeled a racist. Baby, you are. You're a racist. You're either a racist or you're vehemently and intentionally anti-racist. There's no more good enough to just not be an active racist yourself.
Yeah.
We have to take a stance. We have to change the world. We have to do it now. And the only way that fucking happens is every single person that's here, just however many people are in the chat, we're actively being vehemently anti-racist. Shut that shit down. Tell your family when you're in white spaces and we're not there to make you feel guilty, shut the jokes down. Shut the people down. When you're at a meeting and there's no black people, talk to your human resources department and say, you notice that we have a lack of diversity right now? When you see somebody who doesn't have a job or doesn't have the qualifications to work with you, figure out a way. When you know that they are qualified or their brain is able to handle the work, figure it the fuck out. There's so many little things we can each do right now, tiny little things that would make such a huge impact, but we're also thinking in these large scales because we're Americans and we're gluttonous. We think everything has to be so big.
Go big or go home.
Go big or go home, like my hair, like it's either got to be, you got to make these intentional choices, and they are small, but every small cog moves that big ass wheel of supremacy. So start fucking pulling the cogs out right now. Start ripping it up. If you see it right now in the games industry, you know what's happening on Twitter right now. I'm sure you all know about all these people being exposed as predators, right? You guys seen it on your timeline in the past 24 hours?
Yeah.
The amount of vehement anti-predators I've seen in the past 24 hours is fantastic. I wish that I saw that for racists. So many people at cons going, well, if you ever need me or you need a guy to escort you so that I can protect you from being raped, dope. Also protect me from being discriminated against as being black. Also make sure that I'm present in your spaces. The same amount of vehement disgust we feel for predators is what we should feel for racists, because racism is also predatory. And it should be met with the same level of action. Elgato, Logitech, all these people are, probably cutting ties with these people right now, all these big brands. Great. Do it for the racists too. Do it for I want us all to be holding these people accountable. The games industry is more concerned right now about predators than we are about racism. I've seen so much support for predators. I've seen so many women speaking up and telling their stories, which is fantastic. As a assault survivor myself, I think it's fantastic. But keep that same energy.
Yeah.
I need us to keep that same energy for black people being murdered.
Yeah.
And I need us to keep that same energy because all these women are stepping forward and telling their stories. But I didn't hear shit about anybody telling their stories about the racism that they've witnessed when Black Lives Matter started coming out. I have been a bystander of racism. I myself have done this. I didn't see that all over my timeline.
Right.
But I see you speaking up about sexual assault. And I'm in no way downplaying sexual assault. I'm a sexual assault survivor. I think this is amazing. But I needed to see the same thing for Black lives.
Yeah.
I need it. Yeah, the same call outs. Let's call it out. Let's call it out. Like, let's do it. We all work in games. It's so simple. Let's pull the racists out of their little holes. Except for the fact is, they're not in their holes. They're open, walking amongst you guys. They're running these companies. They use Black Lives Matter as a way for them to do performative shit so that they could get money, and we're not talking about it. Let's fucking talk about it. Let's talk about it with the same energy. All right, that's my dismantling racism talk. Thank you for coming.
Yeah, yeah, I like that. Keep the same energy.
Yeah.
I think there was a question from Jelly Tuxedo or a comment, and I think being an anti-racist, um, just that word is going to take your time to digest it. That word is very aggressive on purpose. It is very intentional on purpose.
Mm.
It's going to take some while for that to feel right to say and to feel. But understand that anti-racism is an arc. It is a goal. The things that you do between now and accomplishing that goal over a lifetime are what matters. Do what you can when you can, all the time that you can and when you can.
Oh, that's good. I do have a question. That has been kind of on my mind recently. Now, I'm not going to claim that I'm some completely woke person who's been woke forever, but I feel like there have been people recently that are finally getting woke and trying to make the effort to understand. But my initial gut reaction is, where the fuck have you been? I'm not sure what my question is, but it's like, I have a question. I'm there. Hold on. I'll get there. Well, my question is, it's like, how do I, is that the right feeling to have? And like, how do I work through that feeling? Like, I want to just be like, where the fuck have you been? I'm not these people are not here to just kind of teach you. It's like, why did it take this long for you to get to this point? Like,
So I'm gonna make a work analogy.
please.
So you've been working on a project for 8 weeks. You have a team of 10. On that team of 10, there's one particular person that has not been carrying their weight.
Mm.
You're in week 9, you're shipping in week 12. That person shows up to work and says, "Hey, Chris, I really been fucking up. I've got my head together. I apologize, and I'm here. Let's do it."
Mm-hmm.
Right? How do you feel about that? What do you do about that? Because it's the same answer, right? Like, I'm an old man. Everybody that shows up at this point, I'm like, "Oh, thanks. That was we could have used you in 87." You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
But like, if I fixate on where you've been, then that person's going to lose the momentum of what happens now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right. So the same way you would at work, where you're just like, all right, well, we're going to need to talk about this to some extent so that I can feel comfortable and I can rely on you and I can feel like you're really showing up. Mm-hmm. Sure, there's probably some level of that you're going to want to have, but people that are showing up now, like companies, I've had a bunch of people hit me up and be like, why are all these gaming companies suddenly posting these like Black Lives Matter, we're like, they've always mattered, and I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
they're doing it because this is this feels like a real change and nobody wants to be on the wrong side of history, right? Mm-hmm. Why didn't they show up before? Because they didn't have to. Right. And in some cases, they're showing up now because they get it. In some cases, they're showing up now because it looks good. But like, if you're throwing $1 million at this cause and you're starting up this internship program and I don't give a shit where you were. Right. You're here now, put the money in, put the work in. Like, we can worry, like, you can settle the rest of that shit with you and whoever you care about caring about you. Because at this point, we just need to create and maintain momentum, right? And if it's on backs of a bunch of people that just feel like this will make them feel good about themselves, if they do real work, I literally don't care.
Right. And that's a really important part. Like, so the mayor of Toronto, like, call it 6 months ago, there was a shooting. By the way, there's only like 12 shootings in Toronto, and it's a real scandal every time per year. There's about the same or a little more population in the Chicago area and the greater Toronto area. Okay. So like 12 or 13 or whatever. So like there was a shooting in one of the primarily black neighborhoods. And he used the words rat or rats when he was talking his anger about the gang violence. And the thing is, there's a little more equity here, and I think that's what you're talking about, Sebren. In my opinion, I'm hearing we're talking about equity. If you're doing the work and we're getting equity and we're at the table and we're stakeholders, fuck the rest. Like when I'm at the table, I will just vote the way I want to vote. Like I don't have to consider anything. Um, 2 months later, that same mayor was at the Black Professionals Technology Network sponsoring on the main stage, and like, yo, this year you did 1,000, you did 200 internships. Next year, the city of Toronto is making it so we can do 2,000. We're renting a space for you, and we're going to add another 500 internships, and including the 200 internships, because that dude went to work the next day and the black people at the table were like, okay, so here's how much it's gonna cost. I don't give a shit about you. We're at the table. You need these votes. You need this voice to do some shit that you need to do. So you're gonna be out there, you're gonna dance, and you're gonna look real stupid because Lil Dicky's playing. I don't think you know about that, but you're gonna dance and try to work it out. And you're gonna put some fucking money down. Because that's how we grow our society. That's how we grow our equity. And so I love that point that you made, Sebren. It's like, yo, you're here now. Your actual results equal up my expected results. Now give me some of that equity. And then when I'm at the table, when I'm a stakeholder, I'll vote the way I want. And we won't even talk about my objectives. My objectives are none of your fucking business. Here's my vote. Do it. Get it.
I think that it's important. Like I had a gaming company reach out to me this week, and they pretended like they knew who I was and they liked my channel, but I know that they didn't know anything about me, which is fine. They gave me a really good opportunity, and I'm gonna take that shit. Like I'm gonna take it because I'm gonna run the ball as far as I can, as hard as I can, and by the end of it, the people that they're gonna inadvertently bring to me as one of their little diversity handouts, which I'm okay with, are going to be forever changed by me and who I am. So I'm dope with that. And I'm going to run that ball for the next girl, right?
Yeah.
Because black women in gaming, we don't get half the love that white women in gaming. There's white men, and then there's white women, and then there's black men, and then there's black women. Well, then there's like Asian people in between there. Black women we're pretty dead last, right, when it comes to gaming. And so this company reached out and they were like, hey, we want to give you this big opportunity. And I was like, cool. Yeah, this sounds really cool. And they're like, yeah, we like your content. And I'm like, oh, yeah. And then they said something that let me know they'd never seen a thing I've done. Not a thing. Because they assumed that my partner, because I have a partner, was a male. My partner that I game with. And I was like, first of all, it's a woman because we have a team. We're called Sugar and Spice. We focus on diversity and inclusivity and body positivity in gaming. And we're 2 women. So when they were like, yeah, we'll get one for him. And I was like, okay, so y'all don't know me at all. Which is cool. But how dare you, reach out to me. But what I'm seeing more of is, and that's, I'm seeing more people that are reaching out and companies that are reaching out. They're still reaching up to the top upper echelon of black gamers, right? They're not reaching out to anyone else. So everybody's celebrating these big black streamers that already have thousands of subs and hundreds of thousands of subs and viewers. And so you're still only helping the top 20%. If you're giving somebody who's already successful the tools to be successful, you're fucking up.
Yeah.
Like there's a couple black streamers who are already big, right? They're huge black streamers. And they gave all those black streamers more gaming opportunities.
Right. And I'm sorry to jump in on you on Zombie, but it's like Black Lives Matter. Not those lives, Black lives.
Yeah, like all of us. Yeah, like and I'm seeing a lot of people being like, look at this, we got this great opportunity. I'm like, my dude, you were going to get that opportunity anyways, because when they're handing them out, they're always going to make sure to hit the top of the black community. But like, what are we doing to run the ball for the other people? So for me, I straight up asked, can I also get this opportunity for my person? Like, I know you guys know about me because of all the podcasts, and you know who I am, but let's run this ball for my friend. And they got back to me and they were like, well, maybe we could. And I was like, no, you need to. And they were like, okay, we will. And my friend got that opportunity too, but I don't see any other black creators doing that. I don't see them doing that right now. And that's me calling them out right now, right here on this podcast. I see you, upper echelon black creators, and I see you not running the ball for everybody. I see you hoarding the ball for yourself. Cut that shit the fuck out. Pass the ball. Once you've hit a certain number, you're like, man, I hit 1,000 subs, which is a lot of money, guys. Like, that's a lot of money. Past the rest of people who are trying to give subs, hey guys, hold all your subs. Let's go raid somebody smaller than me and let's give them the subs. Yeah. Like, let's continue moving this ball forward. Like, and doing that. And I'm a small potatoes creator. I've gotten some attention lately. But I'm still really small. I mean, I'm like sitting at like 1,100, followers. That's tiny as a streamer, right? Logitech reached out to me. Well, we reached out to each other. So it's a funny story. I called them out on the podcast. Spawned on me. I don't know if anybody's seen it, but whoever saw it. Okay, I said, Logitech might not call you with the headphones if you talk out about racism. Apparently, Logitech watched that in their community meetings. And they called me about the headphones, and now I'm sponsored by Logitech. They reached out to me this week, and they were like, we love you. We love what you said. We want you to know you do matter. We work with a lot of creators of color, which I know because, if you watched it, Pikachu Lito was like, actually, Logitech fucks with us heavy. Yeah. And I was like, oh, do they? And they do, apparently. They fuck with me heavy now, too. Yeah. But, like, that was my super great thing that, like, came out of all the calling out companies, because I believe Spawn on Me changed the industry. I believe that episode of Spawn on Me spurred the conversation in the industry. We had 30,000 viewers. I mean, we had 30,000 viewers watching that podcast, which, by the way, it was a cesspool of racist trash, most of it. But it was that conversation happened before all these companies came forward and started saying Black Lives Mattered. It was like a couple of days before it all happened. And I think that conversation that we had changed a lot of how they're doing things in the gaming industry. That being said, they're not changing it right still. We still have a lot of work. You're not changing it right if you're only supporting the upper echelon. That's not the point of Black Lives Matter. It's not like these specific Black Lives don't matter. It's all these Black Lives matter. So if you want to give diversity, it has to be diverse. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it has to be diverse in the way that we distribute things too. We can't keep giving all the money to Spelman and Morehouse. Right. We got to give the money to Tougaloo and the Delta College. And, we got to give the money all over the place. So I think if there's anything that comes from all of these conversations, it's let's make sure that we don't keep fucking this up every chance we get. We got to move the ball forward in the right way. Like I said, you guys work in the industry. I'm just like a lowly streamer chick, who's out here trying to force Wildcard to give me a job as a goddamn community manager because I love their game, even though they're trash. I'm out here, I'm new into the gaming industry. This is not my space. I mean, I guess it is my space now. I guess I'm walking in this space, but I'm in here. But like, I want to see this space with a different eyes because I'm fresh here, So like, I'm in the entry space of coming into seeing some change, but it's like I had to be part of the change, and I'm new here, right? Like, shouldn't be a thing.
Well, I think an important thing that you said too, like all of that, but like I think one of the things that I think is really important, in case people didn't catch it, was you said we, and that we means when it comes to the work of anti-racism, like everyone,
everybody
who was brought up in this society needs to do the work. Like Black people have to do the work. The people who are on top, who get to hire people, who hire people the same way that they've been hired for the last 400 years have to do the work. The people who who may be like Uncle Ruckus from the Boondocks have to do the work. I don't
Yeah,
know if you ever seen that.
I love that. I love that reference.
Wow.
I mean, but it
Yeah.
They
starts
all
with
have
us
to do the
though,
work.
Myron. It
Yeah,
starts with
Spy.
us. It starts with us black people. We have to hold each other accountable. So
yeah,
if we're out here and you're a big content creator and you've got 47 game codes from all these companies in the past week, throw that love to somebody else. Like, what are we doing?
yeah,
I want to hold us accountable first and foremost, the most.
yeah.
Like,
So,
we know better. We
Yeah.
know the struggle. Like, what the hell are we doing if we're hoarding stuff because we're so afraid we're not going to get another opportunity, and we're so afraid they've made us be so afraid that everything's so temporary.
yeah,
And I had a friend say something really ugly to me last week. She said, well, next month's going to be tough for you because everybody's not all about this Black Lives Matter stuff. Next month's going to be really tough. You're probably not going to have half as many subs. You're not going to da 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 da. So you're going to see how much people really support you. This was from a friend.
yeah, yeah. And that's the thing, right? So like, if you feel like you're alone in this struggle, understand that there are people of every shade of the rainbow
Yep.
who are also feeling the same way. I was talking to a woman 2 days ago, and she's just as brown as I am, but she's not. She's not from the African diaspora, and she was like, "I don't understand how you're so calm, Myron. I'm ready to shout, and I'm cussing right now. I'm like, I don't understand." And I'm like, bro, it's hard work, but I appreciate you for doing the work and for reaching out from a friend of a friend to validate some of the things you're doing and the work that you're doing at your company. Um, um, of course, I added a joke in there. Cannabis helps.
It
Um,
does. It does. It's a fact. It's science. It's
yes,
science.
it's
It's
science.
science. We're big fans
Cannabis.
of science here. It's science.
Cannabis.
Science is great.
It's science.
Science is great.
That's the slogan.
Science is great. Science is great, y'all.
But you know, so I think we've gone through those three themes, and I think that the audience has our listeners, our viewers have a really good understanding of where we are as a community in crisis. There are no experts here. We are people who understand ourselves, who are understanding the problem. Some people have been understanding the problem for longer than others, but we're all in this together. And this is how we bring communities together. And if we could emulate this, if we could mirror this in our workspaces and our lives where we live, I think we'll be in a better place. Someone asked earlier if we have hope, or if we have hope, and I would say that I have hope because we've done things like these. That we have an audience of, I think, 19 plus, 20 plus people who have stayed with us through this entire very difficult conversation. Um, what you do with this next is on you, but I'm super super happy that you're here with us, and that you stay here with us in this community. Um, Communities in crises can heal together too. Um, Before we end the show, I wanted to. Normally, we do a few other things. We plug things. We do a few. We do a bug, but I wanted to carve out at least 10 to 15 minutes for our viewers to ask any questions of Source. We can talk about that, and then we'll wrap up after that. So in the chat, like who's got a question? We'll wait a little while and see where this goes.
We had a question earlier from Death by Female Myron. I'm not sure if you saw those, but there were two there.
Let's see. Is there anything that gives you hope? Covered that one. I look at the arc of history, Tulsa, redlining, assassinations of black people, be they MLK or otherwise, and the million other super shitty things white people have done throughout the world history. Saying this as a white person and a southerner, I feel like the white machine is going to do whatever it takes to keep power. So do you look at what's going on today and have hope, or do you think it's just another fad and will continue the way it was? So I'll start with my thoughts on that. I think that that the white power machine keeps power because individual white people give it power. Um, you're going to have to get really uncomfortable. You're going to have to individually give up power. And if everyone gave up power tomorrow, we wouldn't have this problem. There's no such thing as a white machine. It is a white machine full of white people who have built this machine. Sebren, I believe, said earlier that it's operating as designed, and so we need white people who are in those places, who are in conversations. The black people in this conversation will never be in to work from the inside to dismantle that machine. Let's get 2.0 in there. Let's get a rip rebuild version 2.0, full point release. Uh, anyone else?
Nice.
Yeah, I mean, hope is a tough word to use. Like, I have to have hope. I have a 10-year-old son, right? So I have to hope that it's not going to continue on the trajectory it's on. I will say that I think that um, the reaction has been very different than it has in the past when these things have happened, right? Like, um, cities voting to actually defund the police and reallocate funds and things like that. That I've never seen that stuff before. So, but I do think, just to plus one what Myron said, like, we were recently making a decision in my company that I won't get into details about, but a very white man came to me and said, I will fight for this very black thing to happen, because if we don't make this change, who's going to make this change, right? And that's how it actually changes. Like, me advocating to hire more black people at my company is par for the course, is expected, right? They see me coming.
Right.
They got his number. They got his number.
Yeah.
But having these unexpected sources of that same vibe, that same activism, saying, hey, we need to make these choices, and we need to make them in a different way than we have in the past, because we have the opportunity to create change. Like, that's what's going to change it. Like, I've told people, for the last 4 weeks, the white folks that have come to me and said, I just don't know what to do. Right. And I'm like, and Zombie killed it earlier. When you hear something that is bullshit, call it out. When you get that tight feeling in your chest because you should say something, actually say something, right? If you just did that, you don't give a penny, you don't march anywhere, you don't change anything else about your life. You just do that, you'll change the world.
The world. Yep.
Right? Like that, it's really that simple. And I do think that the more we can help people understand that very simple fact of, like, if you did nothing else but call out your friends when they say something racist. And it's much harder than you think it is because you've never actually considered to do it. Right? But when you actually do it and you have that hard conversation, and hell, maybe you lose a friend, right? But you're changing the world. Right? And so I do have hope that there are some number of people that are more ready, more willing to make that sacrifice now than there were a month ago,
Yeah.
I have hope too. I mean, I have 3 kids. I did this thing 3 times. One of them's 11. I have so much hope. It sounds like I don't, because I'm real and I'm blunt. But, like, I have hope in incremental change. I have so much hope in incremental change. I have so much faith in the kindness of people. I do, because I myself have I'm so blessed where I live to know so many kind people. I look around me in Mississippi. We had huge marches here. They were peaceful. We didn't get attacked. I didn't have anything to report, which is wild considering where I live. Okay. And considering our governor was ready to he was ready. He was like, killing black folks, I'm in.
Right.
I have hope. These stupid companies, that reach out and they may not know me, or maybe I'll, get something from somebody that doesn't know me, still gives me like a lot of hope. Like, they care enough that they saw me and they know deep down they should probably do something, and I'll take it.
Yeah.
I'll take it. I'll take every little bit of hope, every little bit of kindness. I'm going to take it. I'm going to run with it, and I'm going to change it into something that's going to change the world. And I think that's what we all got to do every day. One little nice thing. Like all old people say, like, kindness is free. It don't cost you nothing.
Right.
Damn, just be kind, y'all.
Yeah.
Take 2 minutes to be kind, and be super rude when people are racist.
Yeah.
It's like your one chance you get to be an asshole, and it's like, okay. It's literally okay. When somebody says that they're racist, and you can be like, shut the fuck up, John. And nobody's going to be upset. It's literally...
Yo, that's a freebie.
That's amazing.
You know what I'm saying? That's a
great.
freebie. You get a full freebie to act a swamp donkey for no reason. You get a full freebie to cuss somebody out in a meeting, too, when they say, blah, blah, blah. You can be like, Steven, the fuck is wrong with you? And nobody's going to fire you. So if you can, please take those moments. Take those moments where you get to cuss out a racist and fully just savor it. Just savor those moments and use them. I mean, calling out and losing friends sucks. But if at the end of the day, you really value losing a racist, that's a whole nother thing I really need you to go therapy about. Therapy's available. Like, go to it. I'm not concerned about losing a damn person. But I'm also in my 30s, and I'm at that don't give a fuck stage of my life. Like, once you're over 35, you hit that sweet spot where it's like, I don't care no more.
Oh,
like,
it's beautiful, right?
It's so great. It's so great. I don't care. People are like, I'm going to unfriend you. Okay, then.
They're cool.
It's like, yo, I found my keys this morning on the first try. So whatever
happens after this, it's whatever. And that's where I'm at. Like, I lost a lot of I had a lot of followers, and people come to me and say that that they weren't gonna, and I'm like, I've been this way the whole time. I've always been open about my activism. Fuck the man, fuck prisons. Capitalism is trash. Dismantle whiteness has been my theme from day one. Yeah, it's cool now, but it probably ain't gonna be cool in a couple weeks because y'all get tired of shit easy. So, and I'm still going to be the same black person I am every morning when I wake up.
Yeah. There was one other question. I think we covered it earlier, but Jelly Tuxedo asked, "Is there a third option?" Earlier in this episode, I said anti-racism is an arc. Consider that a goal, but think about what you can do today, tomorrow, when and where you can, and keep working toward that goal. Understand what anti-black racism is, or anti-racism in general, and then work toward it. There's nothing you can do, to what Zombie was saying. There's nothing you can do in the next 2 weeks that solves it, right?
Yeah.
My own journey has been 5 years. No one's expecting you to. There's no set time, but move toward that arc. The things that you can do, you have control of, do, and you can change the world. I think that's a great. I'm gonna say closing thought, but any other thoughts on that, y'all?
Be a good human. Be a good human to yourself. Be a good human to other people. Let go of your ego, to move past. Admit that you're wrong. Not just admit that you're wrong, though. Take steps to be better. And be forgiving of people who are asking you for forgiveness when they deserve it. Don't forgive people who aren't doing the work.
Yeah.
Because they don't deserve it.
Hold yourself to a high bar.
Hold
Like,
others
that's-
around you to a high bar too.
Yeah,
Just
I think
5% better. 5%.
Yeah. I think you gotta, like, I do want to speak a little bit to, like, is there a third option? Like, actually, there's not. Like, I'm with what Zombie said earlier, and this isn't to say that you have to be perfect. It doesn't mean that you have to be like throw on a BLM t-shirt and like go march in a march. It's not that.
Mhm.
But like,
slapping racist and shit.
yeah, right. But like, either you're complicit and supportive of racism,
Mhm.
or you are anti-racist, and it really is
Vehemently.
a binary switch that you have to flip. And maybe you don't feel ready to flip it. Okay. But if you don't flip it until you do, you're in the dark.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love this. You guys, I love this conversation. I'm so glad that we had it. I think it was really necessary.
Can I?
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
For folks who are looking for a place to start, for resources or things to watch, please reach out. And I'm not calling myself as an expert, but I will tell you, like in the pre-show, Zombie was like, "Have you seen this? Have you watched this?" And she's done it like at least 2 or 3 times during this episode.
Mm-hmm.
Reach out to the Void and ask what you can do to watch, because that's how I got started this down this journey. And I'm going to give you one place to start, which I mentioned earlier. Start with Brene Brown if you just want my super white girl approach to a very compassionate conversation that deals with mental health. If you are like me, looking for how to maintain mental health, be a warrior, be a female in this world, um, start with that. Start with Austin Channing Brown's "I'm Still Here," and those 2 resources for me have been pivotal um, in my journey that is still very far from gone through. But start there. Zombie, if you don't mind also being a resource in the future for me, I'm gonna ask you a million questions as a woman,
Girl,
as a gamer.
hit me up whenever, fam. We got this. We got this shit. We got this. You can bother me anytime. Like if people want to put in the work and you want to grow and bloom, I want to help water the soil. Like I'm into that. You know, I'm here for it. If you want to be a jackass and be stubborn, miss me with the bullshit. But if you're ready to learn and do some work, we can be friends. And I'm here to be your black friend who will make you very uncomfortable. I'm here for that.
Do it.
I'm here for it. Also, I'm throwing a link up in the chat of the prison story that I was talking about, so y'all have it. That was on blackwithnochaser.com. If you're not following them, you should follow them. They are a black media outlet run by a lawyer here in Mississippi. They're pretty dope. But they're black with no chaser, as stated. So be prepared. Just be prepared.
I'm not signed into Twitch, so the answer to can you be anti-racist if you are a racist? The answer to that is yes, because the reality is, to a point that was made earlier, we are all deeply flawed. Doing the right thing is more important than you fighting with your demons in the moment. Continue to fight with your demons, get to where you need to get to, but you can be anti-racist even with racist thoughts in your mind.
Yeah.
Wow.
I would have typed that, but I tried to sign in and Twitch made it hard.
Chris, you had a final thought?
This has definitely become something where initially when discussing this, because I guess it's like that feeling of the guilt where I know that I have participated in this system, where I know that I have ignorantly and like with my own ignorance and unknowingly have done or said something that looking back on was definitely racist. In the moment I had no clue. So it's been a lot of like getting through having the conversation and listening to the conversation without letting my own just anger and guilt and emotions get the better of me. And I want to continue down that path and be able to have these conversations and listen and try and understand better. I want to find more resources. I'm so grateful to have met all of you, like Myron and Zombie and Sebren. I'm so glad to be able to talk with you. And I just want to continue down this journey to be more active, harder anti-racist, push back and be more vocal instead of like, oh, I might, I don't want to ruin a relationship. I mean, like, no, you are being racist. What you said is racist and you need to understand that and call it out. And I want to be better. I want to grow. I want to continue. I'm so grateful to have you all helping, as Zombie put it, water the
Yes.
soil. yeah, this has been a week that I've needed to take and participate in, all in a time that I'm trying to say too many things at once. My brain's going everywhere. But I'm just really appreciative for this experience and opportunity. And I'm glad to be taking this journey and to continue this journey.
Absolutely. We're a community. Um, I'm gonna close by addressing a comment that Death by Female 85 said, about relatives who believe that they're good people. And I'm gonna um, steal a theme that I saw. There's like the school board, and there's a black man that is talking to the school board, and there's a woman who's like um, um, shopping and stuff like that. Hashtag Connie. But in there, I'm stealing from that theme by saying, if they're good people, then tell them to be good people. And it's as simple as that. So thank you all for being here. Thank you all for being here for this very special, different format episode of the Underground QA podcast. And as always, be nice, be safe, wash your hands, and wear a mask.
Wear a mask.
Please wear a mask.
Please. Science is great.
For your
everyone.
immunity, yeah, science is great. Wash your hands. Damn, wash your hands. Also, wearing a mask is an oppression.
Yeah. Oh my God.
I